Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. This is the Steyr Scout Mark II in 223 Remington. The Steyr Scout 2 is available in 223, 243, 65 Creedmoor, 7mm08 and 308. Overall length is 1015mm or 13.5 inch. That's including one recoil pad spacer. Overall weight is 3,327 grams, which is 7 pounds 4 ounces. The barrel length is 485mm or 19 inches and it's screw cut 1/2 inch by 28 for a moderator or muzzle brake. Length of pull is 343mm or 13.5 inch. Right, you've seen the rifle in use, so you can get all the statistics online if you like, but I'll tell you about exactly how I've felt using this rifle. I'm just going to pop the bipod down first. If I press that button there, these two legs fold out, click in position, and you have got a bipod. Now those are 11-inch legs. They're a little bit tall for shooting from a bench, but for actual prone shooting, shooting hunting, which is what this rifle is, they're pretty ideal for that, and it means you've got a good, solid, stable position to operate the rifle and make good precision shots. Now the barrel is 19 inches long, it's 485mm, and it's screw cut 1/2 inch by 28. I actually didn't have a moderator that would fit this, so I thought, you know what, for once I'm just going to shoot it on its own and leave it be. And it was actually quite enjoyable to shoot. 223, it's not a big cartridge, it's not that noisy, it's no real recoil. Now the barrel is 16.5mm diameter at the muzzle and it's fluted. And it has a little sort of band here, then it's fluted again within the aluminium receiver here. Now there's a polymer front end with the foresight on it, that just pops up little blade there, and you've got a matching rear sight at the back. And in fact, if I just release these quick release scope mounts here, you can see that that pops up there. We've got the blade at the front, and you've got a backup sighting solution. It's ghost string at the rear, which I really like, and it's quick, fast, adjustable, and you can see exactly where you're looking. I find them totally intuitive, and if you want to use open sights, those are pretty easy to use and they do align well with the cheek piece. I don't think many people do really hunt with open sights these days, but it's available to you, and if you want to use it and carry this rifle in its bare format, I don't think it's incapable of doing so. Now, as I said, the whole of the action is held within this aluminium receiver and bedding block within the synthetic stock. So it's totally stable, and the barrel has got cooling space around it. You've got slots here, and it does float as well inside. I used it from a set of tripod sticks and it didn't affect zero at all. I was totally happy with that. Just pop those back down. So you've got full length of Picatinny rail. This is a change from the original Scout Mark I, which was Weaver rail. If you don't know the difference between Picatinny and Weaver rail, they can look similar, but they are fundamentally quite different. Now, Picatinny's got 1913 military specification to it, so it's always got uniform dimensions. The spacing between the grooves, the actual dovetail itself, it's all the same, and anything that's Picatinny and officially Picatinny will fit Picatinny. Weaver is more of a proprietary thing, and you get gaps in it and different spacing and all sorts of stuff, and it's really just, it's a bit of a pain, to be honest, because people call it Picatinny but it's not. Right, let me just, shall I put this back on or not? This is the element scope I was using on the rifle. I can just put those back on. It's in tall worn rings as well. That will pop back on there. Do be aware that because the barrel is shrouded effectively, you've actually got the gap there between the barrel and the scope is about 2 centimeters. So don't forget, you're probably going to need slightly taller scope rings, because if this was a kind of regular rifle, you'd have a lot of free space here for that scope objective body to sort of hang over. But it doesn't seem to make any difference if you know you set up for it. And the rifle was comfortable to shoot. Okay, it's not got the most solid cheek weld in the world, but I do believe there might actually be an adjustable cheek piece option for this gun, and you can of course put a stock pack on it, things you're going to use for hunting. Thank you to Sportsman Gun Centre for the use of the rifle, and also a big thank you to Edgar Brothers for the consistent supply of Hornady ammunition which makes these review projects possible. Current recommended retail price on this rifle from Sportsman is £2,276.99. Sportsman also supplied the Element Optics Nexus Gen 2 rifle scope, and that's got a current RRP of £2,016.99. So as well as the bipod, one of the great things about the Scout is you've got two magazines. These are both identical, and interestingly, in the back end here, there's like a little sprung follower. So when you've got ammunition in there, it's not going to rattle or bounce around. And when it goes inside, there's no noise. And the stock itself is actually fairly, it doesn't really resonate. It's not going to bump or clank or sound too hollow. The magazine is a twin column unit, so you can clip them in easily from the top. You can actually, if you've got small fingers, clip them in through the ejection port. But perhaps most importantly, if you just drop around in there, it will close easily, chamber, and you can fire away. So in a backup situation, emergency, you can drop that extra round in there. The bolt handle is about 65mm long, so there's 24mm ball on the end. It's easy to use, get hold of that. Now the interesting thing about Steyr rifles is this roller safety catch. This is a safe dry fire. If I put that roller all the way forwards, it will fire. Just recock that. If I then put that into the middle position there, I've still got bolt operation, but the rifle is on safe. If I put it all the way rear, the bolt is now locked and it's safe. But interestingly, all the way rear, I can also take that bolt handle and go click and push it right down 90 degrees, so it kind of locks in on the actual rebate itself, and it makes it a lot more handy and easy to carry. If I pop that forwards, the bolt handle will click back up. But just to give you another thing, if I put the bolt handle slightly back, roll that all the way to the rear, the bolt now comes out. So that works as your bolt release catch as well. Looking at this bolt, it's got 4 lugs on it, but they're actually paired lugs. Standard 4-lug bolt would give you a 45-degree lift, 2 lugs gives you a 90-degree lift. But if you put 4 lugs in line with each other on this one, you actually get about a 70-degree lift. It's only when the bolt's clunked all the way into its locked position that you go down to 90. And that makes the rifle just a little bit faster. And call it crazy if you want, but in the world now where we've got so many 3-lug bolts and 6-lug bolts which have got a 60-degree lift, it does make a bit of a difference, and it just speeds the rifle up a bit. And interestingly, it's also not knocking your baseball cap off either. Now the trigger is a single stage unit. It is not a single set, it's just a single stage, but it's adjustable, but it's got a lot of thread lock on here, so you can't really mess with it, or I certainly didn't mess with it. It breaks about 965 grams, which is 34 ounces or so off the top of my head, and I found it very easy and predictable to use. And if I hadn't found it easy to use, would the way this rifle shot have been as good? Now, you've got recoil pad spacers in here, those came fitted, nice rounded recoil pad, it locks into your shoulder quickly and easily. Length of pull is alright at 30.5 inches, which is 343mm. I'd probably want it a teeny bit longer, but I think the rifle scales well, and because you've got all this Picatinny rail, you've got a lot of leeway on where your scope mounting goes. On a second note to that, if you've got thermal or night vision, you've got masses of space to tailor it exactly as you want it. You're not kind of constricted with having to kind of crane your neck back like this because it's in a bad position, and I do like that about it. Sling mounting points are fitted, but you will need proprietary swivels that lock into those and click sideways and give you a quick release. But there are 2 on the back here, 2 in the centre here, and there's 1 at the front, just in front of the M-lock rail there. And there, of course, is your bipod release catch. The magazine's got twin buttons there, they go in and out easily. I was very happy with those. And the rifle, as you can see on paper, shoots incredibly well. There is very little point of impact shift between the different ammunition types, and although Steyr don't actually mention what twist rate they are using, and I haven't been able to get an accurate measurement on it, it's definitely a 9 or faster because the 73 grain ELDM bullets stabilised very nicely. Having said that, that didn't preclude the fact it shot extremely well with 55 grain VMAX. You know, it was sub MOA with everything else I shot. Importantly, I wasn't particularly kind to it. I let the barrel get hot just to see what it would do. And it was going past 30 shots before there was any thermal movement, any drift to the point of impact. So I really can't say anything wrong about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Steyr back in the days were one of the first companies to develop cold hammer forging, and I think they certainly know how to do it, because I have not had a bad Steyr barrel in all my time reviewing rifles, and I must have had, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 maybe over the last 15 years. So I really have to say they do the trick. I always think it's interesting to see what it's like if you just put a random round in the chamber, and in this case, yes, it will feed. This rifle's available in green, mud brown or black. I think I'd probably go for the green or the mud brown myself, just because I think they're a little bit nicer for hunting environments. And the aluminium is all hard anodized black, so it's tough, it's durable, and the stippling on the stock makes it grippy without being, you know, too onerous or rough. A little bit of polymer in use in a few places, but I think it blends well, and I do like the shaping and the way the bolt shroud and things like that are all made to be, you know, smooth and quite refined, because Steyr do have a little bit of a different look about them as rifles, and the Scout 2, I mean the Scout has been around for probably nearly 30 years. The Scout 2 is very similar to it, apart from these key details about the bedding system and the aluminium here and the full-length Picatinny as opposed to weaver rail. It's very nice to shoot. It's a very charismatic rifle. I would love to try one out in one of the larger calibers, probably the Creedmoor, maybe a 7mm08 for a little bit of a difference, but I think that's going to work well. Now, of course, in the short 19-inch barrel, you do lose some velocity from published figures, but the original Scout back in 1990s was in the days when everybody was using 24-inch barrels, and ammunition boxes still list figures for 24-inch barrels for muzzle velocity and the proof and the, you know, the testing process when it's built. So you're always going to be a little bit lacking on that. But this was just under 3,000 feet per second with 55 grain VMAX, and I do a lot of shooting with, you know, 20-inch barreled bolt action 223s. They've all got 20-inch barrels. It gives me great handling, great capability, and it does what it needs to do on foxes. And if you've got a cartridge like a 7mm08 or a 308, you're still going to get a lot of your performance from a standard cartridge. If you go for the 6.5 Creedmoor, I suppose in a short barrel, and certainly in a 243, I wouldn't really love a short barrel, because I think you do lose some of the benefits of what I would call a speed cartridge, particularly the 243. The Creedmoor's a bit middle ground. If you're shooting the 140s, you're probably going to be okay. But I probably wouldn't choose it in a 243. But on the other hand, if it doesn't matter about, you know, legitimate energy figures and deer legality and things like that, the 243 is an absolutely awesome foxing round. Just be aware that in a 19-inch barrel, you're going to get quite a lot of muzzle flash and quite a lot of noise over, because you're not getting the full powder burn through the tube. But I'm kind of digressing a little bit there. I actually I do like this rifle. It's different, it's got real character to it, and it stood the test of time, because fundamentally it doesn't look a huge amount different to how it looked when it appeared, when the Scout first appeared in the 90s. It's, you know, lost a little bit of the kind of ethos with the Colonel Jeff Cooper thing and this, that and the other, but the fundamental facts of the rifle are similar. Yes, we haven't really gone into the world where we're using, you know, forward mounted low power sights all the time. We do still like a bit of zoom, bit of magnification, but the handling character of the rifle, which was first introduced back then, as I say, back in the days when nobody was really using short barrels, is fundamentally lovely to use and to carry. I would quite happily go foxing with this, put a moderator on it, and as I say, in a larger caliber, do a bit of deer stalking, because I'm not shooting at major distances. And like most Europeans, we're not necessarily hashtag long ranging to every comment we make on the hunting world. Whereas in the US, I think they like to, they do like to make sure they've got greater distance capabilities. Were you hill stalking in Scotland with a 308? It's certainly going to do the business. I wouldn't say it's the same as using one of the intermediate Magnum cartridges at longer distances, or even a 3006, but you're going to have great performance from it. And I just like it. I think it's quirky and it's a bit different, but for good reasons, because some things are designed and they're too quirky and they're too different just because they want to be, and they haven't got a fundamental reason for why they want to be that little bit different. And I think the Scout 2 does, and I like the fact they've made minor updates to it. They've made a couple of very small tweak changes, and the rifle itself is still, it's just a nice rifle. And I do like the fact that that bipod has also got cant capability on it, so you're not kind of embroiled with a gun that's kind of lodged in the wrong position. Anyway, there we go. Those are my thoughts on the Steyr Arms Scout Mark II. I give it a thumbs up. I quite like it. If I had a moderator for it, I probably would have gone taking it foxing, but with review guns, I don't like to get them too bumped and bashed around in the field, especially in the dark at night. Having the two magazines on a foxing rifle means you load them both up, set off your evening, and you're just not going to have to mess around at all, are you? And I do love the fact that you can just throw that round in there, close the bolt down, because if you get a dead man's click or anything like that, and you need to get a round out and think, oh, now that fox is going to hear me, it's going to do that. I've done it myself, and sometimes you can be fumbling and fiddling, and this is not a fumbly or fiddly rifle. The mag systems work really well, and having that ability to just drop it in, close the bolt, off you go, fire is ace. And if you really want to, put that back, click the bolt handle down, makes it a bit handier to carry, and you can, of course, you can go side mounted sling like a Barthelon. It sits in the middle of your back. Right, I hope you've enjoyed watching that review. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell me I'm wrong about everything if you like, but just make sure you click that notification bell and keep track of the regular uploads. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.